Hi, everybody. I was just thinking about that Beastie Boys song, Fight for Your Right to Party. And what if we have to fight for a right to be magical and to be exactly what we are? And that's the whole point of everything. Because I used to think about free will as kind of almost like a trap or, like a catch 22. It's yeah, you have free will, but it just seems like almost like limited because we're born into this body, which is this mind, which is this reality and this family structure and this society at this moment in time. And so there are all these parameters, but that is life, that is consciousness. And the choice, what if it's not that a negative thing? I always saw the choice as kind of like a moot point at the end of the day because we choose what we choose. And so what we choose is our destiny because it's what happened. It's what we chose. Because it's the past, it's what we did that makes it our destiny. But because it was what we did, we chose. No matter what the choice was, I mean, then did we really have a choice, Because someone else would have made potentially different choices, but that's because they are them. Like the consciousness and the mind that we are born into, it seems kind of fixed when you think about it. But I think that's really kind of the wrong perspective because it's kind of disempowering to the moment. I mean, life is kind of like rigged when you think about it like that. The whole thing is, and maybe the whole thing is, but maybe that's kind of irrelevant because if you take the choice of any given moment, to embody that consciousness, to not just be reactive and to not just be consumers, like everything that we are taught to be, that we have to choose to go within instead of going without. Isn't that funny? God, I love words like that. I'm thinking like going externally, but when you go externally, you end up going without because you're looking in the wrong direction. And everything that we are taught, just like to consume and to compare and to react, it's just like a way for us to be born to dim ourselves, and you'd have to be pretty dim to really go into to buy into all this. But once again, it felt like we didn't have a choice. That's why I chose addiction. That's why I chose escapism to such an extreme. It was such a calling for me, not necessarily drugs. Like I said, for years, from adolescence until like my early 20s, like really early 20s, like age 20 and 21. So for like 5 years, my escapes were like toxic love and self-harm. It's thundering. I love it. Because I had to go outside of myself to find really extreme emotions to kind of feel a little reprieve from the sedation that is waking life. And then when I found drugs, they were like the ultimate version, the ultimate escape. But of course, that's a ruse because it's temporary. You're consuming something externally, outside in. You're changing, you know, the picture in the mirror. You're not changing the reflection, or you know what I'm saying. And so it was like so fleeting. It was so temporary. I felt what I had consumed, And that felt like the break, but yet I was as trapped as before, or actually more so. And like, you have to fight for your right to party. Like, that's kind of bullshit, you know? You don't. I love that song, by the way. Like, no, nothing against the Beastie Boys. I loved them as well. They had like a couple really good albums. I even had CDs back in the day of theirs, so nothing against them. But, you know, when you first hear, let's even say this, when you first heard the story of the Beastie Boys, like, God, what are the odds? Like, you know, these three like Jewish nerds, like white nerdy guys, um, you know, getting into like rap like really early on. And not only that, but putting their own unique twist and bringing their own style to this. Like, what are the odds of that? But they're pretty high when you look at who their parents are. Very connected New Yorkers. You know, the same thing with like Kim Kardashian's daughter. I saw the comments. A lot of people, you know, were like, "Oh, nepo baby, typical." But there were some people who were like, "Hey, well, she's getting on stage. She's doing it. She's contributing something. You know, let's see you do that." And that's a valid point. However, it's like easy to have that confidence when your reality has never been limited by practical financial constraints. You know, you don't really have to fight for your rights when the doors, you know, you got the keys to the kingdom from the get-go. You know, it's just, and that's like, that's the reason why, like, nobody grows up like, you know, nepo babies don't grow up to be like accountants or janitors or public school teachers, because nobody, you know, well, that's not true. A lot of people want to do things. It's not like everybody wants to be famous, but everybody wants to feel like they're living a life of authenticity and of truth. It's just a big lightning bolt. And it's so easy, like euphoria too. It's so, everything that is like evil and demonic is glamorized. And that's us. That's the darkness of humanity. And like, what is evil? You can say like it's all subjective in a way, but you know, what if the evil isn't like ha 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 ha, but the evil is that that autopilot, just going through life on autopilot. What if that's evil? You know, what if it's like limiting yourself to the point where you have to poison yourself to feel? What if that's evil? You know, what if it's just spending your life like on a screen reacting to strangers from a place of judgment and condemnation and like vitriol? You know, this world is evil. You know, I just feel like we are the people who are trying to like wake up to the shortcomings of our former selves. I just feel like we are stars in the sky. Like we're like trying to be like little twinkling spots of light in like this ever expanding darkness. And that's why I couldn't get behind euphoria. Maybe the old me, I'm sure, I really have no doubts that in a former life, I would have loved euphoria, but at a certain point in time, you know, but when by the time it came around, like I was telling my friend, and who it's like we're almost like former friends. It's almost like when we talk to each other, it's like talking to a ghost or like a zombie version of ourselves. Um, you know, and it's like I irk his nerves and he irks mine because we're just like so different now. And of course, he's like, "You used to love euphoria. You've changed so much." I'm like, maybe I have, you know, and maybe that's the point. But um, he was like showing me euphoria and was like, "Oh, you know, super fan," and everybody loved it. And, you know, Zendaya's the breakout star. And I swear to God, I don't know if I even said this on an older video, because I thought about saying it a lot. I might have touched on it, but I wanted to make a video talking about my prediction for the end of Euphoria, because I have seen one full episode of season 1 of Euphoria, and I was like, this is trash. Just because it's not trash, the acting wasn't bad, nothing like that. It's trash because it's the same old shit. It's the same old glamorizing of what is already so glamorous. And there is something very je ne sais quoi about self-destruction. It is titillating to the senses. However, if you've seen too much, if you've really been down that path, you know at the end of the day, you are going to fucking destruct and self-destruct and die a million times, and you are going to be alone when you do it. And that's the reality. And I know that's the irony of even calling it Euphoria. I'm guessing because everybody's fucking miserable, kind of like Nirvana or whatever. Which, love Courtney Love, that's another thing. The reason they were so big is because Kurt knew that pain so intimately and so deeply. He knew the pain. He wrote about it. He sung about it. But then it was still like, of course, blame the woman, It's like he would never do the thing that he said he was going to do a million times over. But yeah, with Euphoria, it was just so, it's not cute anymore. It's such a fucking cliche, like, damn it, rock and roll used to be cool. And now like the devil used to be cool. I'm sorry. I've said it before, but you know what I mean? I loved Marilyn Manson in high school. I love his music to this day. He's such an artist, such a performer. And that's my point. He is expressing himself, bringing something to the table, doing it. He's self-made, and maybe that is infinitely holier, infinitely less demonic than somebody who just goes to church every Sunday but never misses a chance to fucking gossip and judge from afar, And like everybody we interact with, we're a million miles away from. We don't know anybody. All we can do is fucking come at, like the Beatles said, all you need is love. Come at this reality from a place of love and bring something from yourself to the table, to be the table. I'm sick of this pull up a seat at the table. Fuck that noise. This table's bullshit. But yeah, with Euphoria, it was just so obvious that they were trying to be like, martyr this character. And that's why I had a prediction that when, at the end of Euphoria, that Zendaya was going to die. Like, Rue, is that her character's name? I think, but I really don't even know. Zendaya was going to be killed off in an overdose, and that was my prediction. I predicted she was going to have a glitter tear falling from her eyes, the most beautiful overdose, suicide, intentional or otherwise, of all time. And I predicted also that she was going to do it like to kind of like save a family member or a close friend or something. From falling into addiction, then they were going to find her, and it was going to be like, oh, it's the cycle repeating. But I knew she was going, I don't know, for all I know, she could have died with tears in her eyes, but I knew she was going to die from fentanyl overdose, because that is the fucking junkie junk dream. The junkie dream is to die of an opiate overdose, did she have glitter tears in her eyes? But they had to martyr her, because it's like this fucking machine constantly needs more fodder for people to be like, come on, do it. And the point is like, the party is easy to find, it's easy to get to. The escape is easy to find. Going inward and finding the truth. And it's like, Eckhart Tolle and all these people talk about I am. So why the fuck is it so hard to be yourself? Why is it so hard to be and to do exactly what you want, and be yourself. Why is that so exceedingly difficult? And it's the conditioning, man. It's got to be. It's got to be like the conditioning and the programming. And but then they'll say, like, take it a step deeper. You know, your conditioning, there aren't like hard rules like this is something you're never going to get over. This is just a cross you are going to bear to the grave. You can choose to let that shit go, but it does take time for a lot of people. It really does, to be like, oh wait, I can release this now. I can say, like, that was me, that was then, that was worth it, yeah, fuck it, that was worth it. You know, we can say that, and, you know, not have shame for everything that everyone says should be a regret or a mistake or something to be ashamed of, because all of that brought us to where we are now. And we can acknowledge that and say thank you for those lessons, let it go, and then say, okay, I kind of had, like, you know, like the palate cleanser. Now what? And that's where, like, that I am, that actual consciousness comes from. That's why I think, like, the term Christ consciousness is kind of redundant, because I mean, it is if we are gods, if the Bible says that, and if they, dun dun dun, they have been fighting so hard to keep us dimmed, to keep our power and our magic, us from knowing how beautiful and how loved and how much love we truly are, all of that good stuff. You know, they have been fighting for generations the world over to keep us from ourselves. Why? Because we must be the shit as human beings. Whenever I get down on myself or sad about humanity, I try to keep in mind, this is like a really helpful little tidbit that I found. I try to keep in mind that I love my dog. I love my cat as well, but getting a dog has been part of something that has saved my life. I love my dog so much. When she does the cutest little thing, she just ate a sucker totally by accident. She got it off the floor, or it had fallen on the floor. A tiny little, like, dum dum sucker, and it was so cute. And her, like, little doggy breath smelled like bubble gum, because it was bubblegum flavored sucker. A little mini, thankfully. But anytime she does anything, it's adorable. But, like, look at all the good. Fuck all the noise. Look at the good that we do, that humanity does, that people have to offer and have done and are doing in this very moment. So we can't, like, give ourselves, you know, try to give ourselves the grace and love and the perspective that we give to our beloved pets. I love the rain so much. There's a word for that. People who love the rain. I do. That's why I really want to visit Seattle. If not, even still live. Maybe I'll end up in Seattle after all. Who knows? Who knows these things? But man, there was something else I was going to say too. And just, like, take it from there. Like, take that autonomy. Yeah, because of the Christ consciousness. So, okay, if just to waking up to this fucking dream, waking up to the illusion, waking up to the spells, just waking up to our potential, waking up to that we are more than our potential. And those two can be like limitations. You know, waking the fuck up is Christ consciousness. Then the opposite of that, it's not going to be like, you know, Sam Smith or whatever in that fucking corny ass devil costume. That's what I'm saying. Rock and roll used to be cool. That, you know, the devil used to like have it, and now it just looks so tired, so generic, so fucking lame. It's depressing. It's like, wow. Well, if I was the devil, I would, like, probably have kick-ass marketing as well and make myself seem really cool, really counterculture, really edgy. And now it's just like mainstream, and it's corny as hell. But the real Antichrist and the real God is the Christ consciousness, or the opposite. It's the light or the darkness that we shines through our soul, that we express. Our expression is going to be light or dark. It's going to be the light of us internally, or it's going to be, you know, the darkness, that reactivity. It kind of makes like honestly like the internet and like the technology as it is today, the internet as it is today, kind of like demonic if you think about it. Like this, the technology of today is the devil. What if the Amish are dead ass right and always have been? Because once you get going with the snowball of electricity, all roads lead to where the fuck we are. And what if the Antichrist is just a fucking mimic, a hate machine? It fuels hate. It brings out the worst in people. It brings out reactivity. It brings out narcissism. It brings out judgment and ignorance. And how can it do that? It's nothing more than a mimic. Wow. That's crazy. But you know, technology is also beautiful. It's just once you like are aware of it and use it, not just scroll mindlessly, not turn off, but actually go inward and fucking be conscious with your thoughts, with every single one of them. I tried to do that for a day the other day. I forgot like midway, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to not go on autopilot at all today. But even just doing that for like half of a day for a fucking hour, I felt like was like living so much more life. But okay, that's my wisdom, pearls of wisdom for the day. Y'all have a good one.